You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't know his name though. For those of you that can't see, Micah is sleeveless today on the podcast. He's just
So my
flexing hardcore. Pat McAfee, Micah
Pat,
McAfee over here.
yeah, Pat McAfee. Dude, it's hot in Texas, man. When you walk your dog in the morning, you gotta, you know, gotta be dressed for the weather.
Hey, weird flex, but all right.
You know what's funny is I recorded a LinkedIn video like back in 2019, just walking around. I don't know why. Did a video, but I had a tank top on and this like I don't know. People were just giving me crap. I was like, dude, I didn't even really think about it. I just recording the video, and
We're recording right now, actually. Hey, man,
oh, I don't.
I'm on a call. I need you guys to beat it. Hey, let's go. Chop, chop. Shut the door. I don't know. You got to talk to your mom. Shut the door. We're literally recording right now. I've been recording since we started. I didn't know you had tattoos, by the way.
I got two. I'm gonna remove one for sure. Maybe both.
Let me see the other one. I saw the one
Oh,
on your right arm.
it's
What's the one on
just
the?
a deal. It's an embarrassing story actually. I I got my first tattoo, just a cross, right? Nothing special, but pretty basic. I was 18 and my parents were like, dude, they didn't want me getting a tattoo, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna get one in the next year anyways. And so for my 18th birthday present, they actually surprised me and gave me a $150 check to pay for the tattoo. I was like, oh, cool. This is back in 2004. I'm sure you can't get a tattoo for that price now, but uh, unless you get one of those real cute, like little, like fancy little squiggly ones.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, the second one, this is a good lesson because the second one, I went back to the same. This is how stupid I was. I go back to the same tattoo shop, just assuming like, okay, I liked the first one; it was decent. On the first one, though, I took the, I'm not an artist, so I took like the idea I wanted, and then the guy was like, hey, instead of putting the sun like this behind the cross, let's do a shadow effect and do this kind of shading. And he took it up and kind of made it his own, and then said, hey, how does this look? I'm like, oh, way better than what I gave you. So second time I get a tattoo, I think the same process is going to be done, right? I go to the same tattoo shop. Well, it's a different tattoo artist. it's just it's just how stupid you are when you're 18, right? And I give it to the guy. He literally puts it on me and does it exactly like I drew it up. So like if you look at it closely, like it's not symmetrical. It's not like it's just exactly literally how I drew it. I drew like my image, and I imagined a guy would take it and make it like an artist, right? And so that's the story of the second tattoo. So it's a good lesson I learned at age 18, that and for all of us insurance agents, it's like, hey, if your clients put a ton of stock in the agency, it's really the agent that matters. So make sure you're telling that message to your prospects. But yeah,
Mm. Well, we have no idea what we were going to talk about, and so I'm just gonna. This is fresh off the dome. Why don't we parlay this into the top 5 mistakes producers make, or new producers make?
oh wow, okay, there's a lot. Well, number one, let's start with number five because I know what number one is.
Okay.
So we'll go in order, kind of. We'll try to because it's off the top of we're just riffing here. I'd say number five is like putting too much, letting their lack of knowledge actually hold them back, right? It's making them feel
Mm.
like, hey, I don't have the confidence to go out there and sell something because I don't know anything, right? And I think you let that hold you back from a lot of different things. So that's what I would say is like number five is just worrying about that too much. Instead, hey, just go open doors, prospect, get your feet dirty, and good things will happen.
Yep, I agree. Um, Number 4.
Number four, I would say just being organized, lack of organization.
Yeah, that's actually a really good one.
Yeah, not using a CRM, especially if your agency provides one, but if they don't, go pay $25 a month or whatever for one, and get something in place just so it's automated the process of following up with prospects and logging each call. So really the basics. I mean, and I'm a big believer in logging the calls as you make them, not like I'm going to make 50 today and then I'm going to go back and type in my notes. That never works, man. Just as you're making the calls, even if you're in your first week, as you're building out your prospect list. I know it's a little bit arduous of a process. It's like, oh, this sucks. I want to make more calls faster. Well, just do it right the first time. Put them in that CRM, and you'll thank yourself, 2, 3 weeks later when you're doing callbacks.
Yeah, you never go back and log it ever. And then I can see it just like with my stuff. I was making calls the other day, and there was, I keep notes on everything, but this one I just forgot to log my note for whatever reason. And so it's literally 3 days later. I'm like, oh, what Julia, what did I talk about with Julia? Oh man, I'm like racking my brain, you know. And then I go back and I check my email, and I didn't send her an email, so clearly, like, we didn't have a discussion that led to me sending more information. And I'm like, if you don't do it in the moment, it's just not going to get done. And you'd be surprised if you're making enough calls, how quickly you can forget it because they just all run together. Especially if you're in like a call block and it's like 20 calls in an hour and a half. And just they all run together.
Yep, I agree.
All right, let's go number 3. Actually, let's do this. Why don't you go with number 1 so we can get that out of the way? Because I have a couple things that I was going to add, but I know what your number 1 is, but there's a couple that kind of dovetail off number 1, but I didn't want to say mine because I don't want
Sure.
to ruin your. So let's just talk about the biggest issue that new producers make.
In my opinion, it's not scientific. I think it's they don't understand the amount of outbound prospecting activity it takes to generate opportunities, right? And because first of all, you got to have a conversation, then you got to have a meeting, then you got to get the information that you need to do due diligence or to quote whatever your, I don't care what your process is, and then you're not going to win everything. Like you can't just assume everyone that lets you quote is going to be a win either. So you or even do due diligence. So you start to get down and down looking at it and you're like, how much does it take to actually get a win? And
Mm.
actually, Ian and I were talking about this the other day. And so, yeah, I mean, it just takes a lot of effort and consistency in that effort every day. Especially, you can afford to miss days or even a weeks once you've kind of made it, quote unquote, or you got a good thing rolling. But your first year, you take 2, 3 weeks off, you will feel that it'll feel like 10x worse than it really is because you just don't have much of a pipeline to rely on or other seeds that you've planted. So your first year is so critical for laying that groundwork for the next 2, 3, 4 years. And really that's why I don't even judge a producer on revenue first year much because I'm like, it's nice to see something, but I'm like year 2 is where we should start to see the fruits of your labor from year 1. And then it starts to compound, right? So that's number 1.
No, I agree. You just don't. I'm feeling it right now myself. With summer camps, and we had the Canada catastrophe
The
and
Banff,
whatever. Yeah,
Padaka.
that May June was weak for me. In my pipeline right now, I'm just feeling it. And I know I've still got, let's see, 7-1. You're halfway through the year, but like I feel like I have I like I feel like I've got like 30 days to get this shit together, and the year's going to be over with. And yeah, so I totally agree. All right, so the next, so dovetailing off of that, let me see here. I'll jump in on this one, and I literally just thought of one, and then so we have not making enough calls.
Yep.
We have um, not being organized and using your CRM. And what was the first one you said?
I said letting like lack of knowledge hold you back from prospecting or just
Got it. Lack of knowledge. Okay. So I don't know that this is a mistake that you can actually fix. I think it's just a learned skill over time, and that's the ability to um, qualify prospects,
mm,
because you tend to get in the situation where in your first couple of years, or let's say you're starting over, or whatever it is. Let's just say you're in growth mode, regardless of how many years you're in. You tend to just take whatever you can get, and so you put out a few lines, you get a few bites, and then you just start working those deals. And you don't really know how to qualify it. You just can't see the red flags to look for. You don't actually know. You know what I'm saying? And then dovetailing off of that, you pump the brakes on your prospecting and just go all in on those because you're like, I've just got to close one of these. But you've got to
Mm-hmm.
do both. It's both and you've got to do both. Like you've got to work the deal, and then we can almost make this like a 3A and 3B. But then you've got to keep the pipeline going because I put a post up about it a long time ago, called it bumper to bumper prospecting. It's like you make a bunch of calls, get a few on the line, you totally abandon your prospecting, you just work those deals, right? Probably, especially if you're and you don't know how to qualify, you probably don't get any of them. And then you got to crank up the prospecting engine again, and it's always like a stop and start, stop and start, stop and start. Um, and so I know that's something that I did. I know it's something that I still can fall into, and I think the best fix for me with that is just dividing my days up with activities. So trying to make like think of it like 2 work days in one, like 2 a days. The
Mm-hmm.
morning is for prospecting, and then usually go to the range at lunch, and then come back and take a shower, and then do all my, apps and submissions and underwriting
Wait,
questions and all.
you shower midday?
Oh yeah,
Every time I go to the range at lunch, I just come back and work.
nice.
I don't care. I'm at home in my office. Like plus I'm
I
gonna
know,
get
but I
sweaty
mean,
the afternoon again. It's Texas.
but if I go hit, a bucket of balls, or I go chip and
Yeah.
putt for an hour, when I come back, I'm literally drenched in sweat.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Okay, so you just sit in your office chair soaking in
Well,
sweat.
the shirt dries, right? And then or I might
Well,
change a
and I
shirt,
mean, and
but
if you're sleeveless like you are today, it's probably a little bit breezier.
but I don't sit either. I stand, so maybe don't have to get my chair sweaty. So I just stand and yeah, because I'm gonna basically at the afternoon I'm gonna play outside with my daughter, take the dog out or whatever, and I'm gonna sweat again. So I was like, I don't want to shower until you know 7 o'clock at night.
I feel like it's a line of demarcation where it's like it's a restart and a refresh. Because if I don't like do that, I'll just come in and look at YouTube videos of golf. So it's like starting my a second day. All
Yeah,
right, I think that's four. You got another one?
yeah. I got kind of a bunch,
Yeah,
but
I thought the same thing. I've got more too.
well, yeah. Let me try to just. I'll just drop a couple of them. I think there's three that kind of I'm thinking of over research. So researching way too much, paralysis by analysis kind of mindset. I've seen that happen a lot. And I think that's really just, I always say this is cold call reluctance in disguise. I really believe that because I think the producers I've seen who are hungry to get out there and grow, they're not as concerned with research. The ones who don't end up making it, I see like they over research and they got to dig and find and how can I get in there and there could be an argument made. Well, I'm just trying to be more efficient, right? And it's like I get it, but you do all that research, man, and then you find out they're with their brother-in-law and you just wasted an hour. Like, come on, or you pursued that thing for 2 weeks trying to find the angle in when you could just called and found out they're with their brother-in-law from the secretary and you know, moved on. So it's a numbers game. I know it's old school. People hate seeing that. Oh my God, all the sales gurus on LinkedIn, say that this is the year 2024. It's not a numbers game anymore. It's like, dude, we're in the trenches. I see it. Yeah, times have changed a little bit, but man, don't buy into that. Please do not buy into that. Um, there's some unique outliers, but most of us, we got to hit the phones. Uh, Not talking with staff, I think, and this kind of goes with mindset, like taking ownership. I don't know, like view yourself as an entrepreneur. If you're not selling, you're not eating, you're not providing. And I think too many of us see like we get a base guaranteed salary or draw, and you get kind of comfortable. This is why I always appreciate the guys who truly go in on the 1099 status and like they only eat what they what they kill. Um, Something can be said for that. I think that also. I think there's benefit to having an agency kind of be that financial supporter, right, or providing that quote unquote loan, and giving them a salary, because I think you allow your producers to actually go after the right accounts first instead of just chasing everything. So I'm not poo-pooing agencies that are out there, paying a salary and kind of winding it down over a 2, 3, 4, 5 year stretch. But I just think as an agent, you should still have the mindset of like, this is not guaranteed, or I got to pay this back even if you don't, or you know, the clock moves fast, man. 5 years goes like I'm 3 years. So the way mine was structured, I had a salary for 5 years, but it winds down to zero. Basically the last 2 years of it, I'm making squat. Not squat, but what I need to live on, I'm not making, right? And then I got my commissions on top of that. So yeah, if I hadn't offset the drop by what I've done these first 3 years, I'd be very nervous. And it goes fast, and then you're desperate, and you don't want to be in that situation. So that's kind of what I would say.
Gotcha.
So it doesn't fit neatly into our numerical order,
No, no,
but
no, that's fine. Um, and of course, I have one, and then I just can't think of it. All right, so let's recap real quick, and then that'll probably jog my memory. We have, um, oh yeah, yeah, I remember what it is. Golly, got another visitor. Say hello. Yes. Oh, time out.
for those listening and not watching, Max is talking to his son, I believe. This is a good lesson also if you are a new producer, is that life will throw you curveballs and things will happen that you don't plan for. So you think you got, 50, 52 weeks a year to prospect, you probably
Shut
really
the door.
have 45,
Shut the
because
door.
things will pop up in your life that will just pull away from your production time. So, anyways, that was my kind of cover up,
Appreciate that.
trying to buy time. Yeah.
I mean, this is working from home, right? It is what it is. Okay. So this is another one. Is when they're trying to get too fancy with your prospecting and not just getting good at one thing. So the trying to like sequence, well, I need to have like, I'm going to do this call followed with these so many touches of emails and then a drop in and what, like, I, I do all of them myself, but I primarily 90% of the time just cold call. Pick one. Cold calling, drop ins, one of the two. Pick one, and then supplement cold email with it. But
Yep.
you just have to do one of the two. And the back and forth, and we've talked about this 100 times. I took advice from everybody, and I did some cold calling, and then cold calling doesn't work, and then I did this, and then I did BORs, and then I would only quote, and then networking, and not like you just have to pick one process, find somebody who did it the way you're planning on doing it. If you have a network and your last name is Biden, great. Find somebody else in your office who did it that way, and tutelage under them. If you weren't born into royalty and you've got to go about it cold prospecting, which is 95% of us out there, then you need to find somebody who did it cold prospecting, who truly did it cold prospecting and wasn't handed or seeded accounts. Come up under them, learn from them, do it the way they do it, but just find one process and stick to it. The hodgepodging and bolting things together to try to like make this process, that just doesn't work. At least for me, it didn't.
Yep. No, I agree. One other thing I thought of as you were talking is just starting slow. And I had mentioned that the time goes fast, and I also mentioned don't get so caught up in revenue year one. I mean, it's obviously nice to put stuff on the books, but I've always found this: if you're doing the right activities, you will put up something. You're right. I mean, you're gonna close a couple deals. But you could start fast as well. Like, especially if you're changing agencies, and um, if you're changing agencies and you've kind of done it before, but maybe even if you're newer, you still kind of can come in with a prospecting list ready to go of who you want to call, your first month out the door. So I think sometimes that's the other thing too, is like agents, they'll hear like from their manager, like, hey, don't worry about it, just learn and all that stuff. And they say that, your first month or two or three or four or five or six, and all of a sudden, like, okay, 6, 7, 8 months now they're saying, hey, what's your numbers? Where's your pipelines? Like, well, wait, dude, you just told me to kind of learn and go shadow an account manager for a week and do this and go to this underwriting school. And all of a sudden now they're putting pressure on you. So, uh, I would say by week 2, like literally the start of your second week, you should be calling prospect, building out a list week 1 in your downtime. Whatever agency you're at, they're going to have, there's going to be downtime. So that's when you should be building your list. In week 2, you should be calling some of that. Maybe you can't hit your 40, 50 call a day mark, but at least start working in some of those calls.
What about if you don't know insurance?
Doesn't matter. Remember I said you
No,
you
I'm
can
just playing devil's advocate.
no, yeah, you can know what a good prospect is week 1. You talk to your mentor and say, hey, what's a good prospect, right? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's called manufacturing companies and construction companies that are going to generate. We have this tool. Hopefully, your agency has a tool that lets you search for companies. If not, then you have to go on Google, and it's not as efficient. But try to find, talk to your mentor of what a good prospect is for your agency. Right? It's not that hard to figure out. At least you could tell between a mom and pop versus a decent size account typically.
And I can hear people out there being like, well, what do I say if I don't even know insurance and I'm calling XYZ manufacturing? And that's the beauty of the script.
I
It's
don't
like,
talk insurance even on a
I know
first
it's like,
meeting.
hey,
Really talk.
but I mean, like on a call, like what would you say on a like, and they're like, well, what do I even say on a call? And it's like, you guys ever do any due
Open to
diligence around your insurance program? Or would you
yeah.
ever be open to talking about? Would you ever be open to talking about your insurance program? And they're going to
Or if
be
you want to
like,
use a problem-based opener, you can use something like this, like, hey, I talked to a lot of other manufacturers who have an agent, of course, but they just wonder, am I overpaying for my insurance or is something being missed by my agent? I didn't know if you guys have a process to help answer those questions, but that's what we do. Would you ever be open to just a conversation around that? I
yep.
mean, you
And then even if
certainly
they
need
did come
Jack.
back and say, oh, well, actually, I had this issue and claim scenario and blah, 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 and you have no idea what they're talking about and it sounds like Chinese, you don't need to answer anything. Just be like, I hear what you're saying. Let's set up a time to meet. I'll bring me and my team with you and we can delve into that further. You don't have
Yep,
to answer it on the phone. Like, oh, that's
correct.
interesting. I tell
Yep,
you what, do you have any time next week? We'll
we'll
let's
address that.
have policies, whatever, and we'll dig into it and see what we can do. You don't have to answer it on the phone. Do you
Yep,
see Aaron Judge in the background back here? Look at this guy. This guy is my baseball player.
I can't
This
see
is
him.
what really
Oh, there we go. Now I can.
you
Dang,
haven't
look at that
seen him
swing.
swinging the bat over my shoulder the whole time as I'm trying to work. All right, come on in. The whole gang's here. All three boys, come here. Come on in. You've already interrupted a million times. Look at the mohawk on this one. Oh yeah, that's Dad's work right there.
Wow,
All right,
punk rocker.
all right. Well, we're gonna run. It is. I think I have exhausted my um, call time.
Bandwidth of attention.
Uh-huh. So I'm being beckoned at every turn. So guys, appreciate you listening. Micah, appreciate you being patient with our technical difficulties this morning. If you want more stuff like this, you can subscribe to the Producer Play. No, blackout. Subscribe to the newsletter. We send out a newsletter every Sunday. It's not bad, but then again, that's what I would say because I write it. And then also, we talked about like having one process and following one clear path. If you're a producer out there and you need that and you're looking for that, that's what the Producer Playbook's for. Little product we have. It's $1.95, and I mean it's going to give you Micah's step-by-step playbook. Like we got a message the other day. talking about, man, I've been through so much producer training and yada, yada, yada. And I got to tell you, Producer Playbook is my favorite by far. It is literally, it is the KISS principle in action. Keep it simple, stupid. It is so easy, even I can do it. So if you're looking for something, go check it out. It might be just what you're looking for. But with
You
that,
got to put
me and the
put that post, share that in the LinkedIn feed.
all right, I got to run, guys. Appreciate you, Micah. Thanks.
See ya.
All right, bye.